The words hit me like ice water. Get out of my house. Right now. Before we proceed, thank you for watching Granny's narrative. Please subscribe and tell us where you are watching from in the comment. My son stood in his designer kitchen. His face twisted with anger I had never seen before. This was not the boy I raised. This was not the child I worked 3 jobs to feed. This was a stranger wearing my son's face. His wife sat on their expensive leather couch, dabbing her eyes with a silk handkerchief, crying, always crying whenever I was around. Her tears were her weapon, and my son believed every single one. It was a Friday evening in October. I had come for dinner like I did every month, except the invitations were getting less frequent. The warmth was fading, and tonight everything would explode. I need to start from the beginning. My name is Margaret Stone. I am 64 years old. I live alone in a 1-bedroom apartment on the south side of town. The building is old. The elevator breaks down twice a month. But it is home. It has been home for 30 years. My son's name is David. He is 32 years old. He is my only child. His father walked out when David was 6 months old. Left us with nothing but unpaid bills and broken promises. I never saw him again. Never wanted to. So it was just me and David. 2 against the world. That is what we always said. 2 against the world. I worked as a janitor at an office building downtown. Night shifts mostly. I would leave David with my neighbor Mrs. Chen, an elderly woman who loved him like her own grandson. She would feed him dinner, help him with homework, put him to bed. And I would come home at dawn, exhausted, my hands raw from cleaning chemicals. But I never complained. Not once. Because every sacrifice was for David. Every extra hour. Every missed holiday. Every birthday I spent scrubbing toilets instead of baking cakes. It was all for him. David was brilliant. Teachers called him gifted. He brought home perfect grades. Science fair trophies. Math competition medals. He had this hunger to learn, to be better, to rise above the poverty we lived in. I remember when he was 10 years old. He came home from school one day. His eyes bright with excitement. Mama, I'm going to be an engineer. I'm going to build bridges. Big ones. Ones that connect entire cities. I hugged him so tight. Baby, you can be anything you want. Anything at all. I will make sure of it. And I did. I saved every penny. I bought second-hand textbooks. I enrolled him in a better school even though it meant 2 bus rides each way. I worked double shifts during his senior year to afford SAT prep courses. When the college acceptance letter came, I cried for 3 hours straight. Full scholarship to State University. Engineering program. My baby was going to college. My baby was going to have the life I never had. David graduated with honors. Top of his class. Job offers from 3 major firms. He chose the one with the highest salary. $65,000 a year. More money than I had seen in my entire life. His first paycheck, he took me to a fancy restaurant. White tablecloths, cloth napkins, waiters in bow ties. He ordered the most expensive steak on the menu. Mama, this is for you. For everything you did. I will never forget. I believed him. God help me, I believed every word. The first few years were beautiful. David visited every Sunday. We would cook together in my tiny kitchen. Watch old movies. Talk about his work, his dreams, his future. He helped me pay rent when I had a tough month. Bought me a new refrigerator when mine died. Fixed my leaking sink. He was a good son. The best son. Everyone in our building knew him. Mrs. Chan would brag to her friends about the successful engineer who still visited his mother every week. Then he met Victoria. It was at some work conference. She came from money. Real money. Her father owned a chain of hotels. Her mother sat on charity boards. They lived in a mansion with a circular driveway and a fountain in the front yard. David brought her to meet me 6 months after they started dating. I will never forget that day. It was a Saturday afternoon in March. Unseasonably warm. I had cleaned my apartment 3 times. Bought fresh flowers for the table. Made my famous pot roast. the one David loved since childhood. The doorbell rang. I opened it, my heart full of hope. I wanted to love whoever my son loved. I wanted to welcome her into our small family. Victoria stood there in a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Diamond earrings, designer purse, shoes with red soles that I later learned were worth $800. She looked at my apartment. Her eyes swept over the worn furniture, the faded curtains, the cracked linoleum floor, and I saw it, that flicker of distaste, that moment of judgment, gone in a second, replaced by a polite smile. But I saw it. "Hello, Mrs. Stone. Such a pleasure to meet you." Her voice was smooth, practiced, the voice of someone who had learned to say the right things even when she meant none of them. "Please call me Margaret." I smiled, trying to ignore the knot forming in my stomach. David looked different that day. He stood straighter, talked differently, used words he had never used before. He kept glancing at Victoria, watching her reactions, making sure she was comfortable, making sure she approved. We sat down for dinner. I had set the table with my best dishes, the ones I saved for special occasions. Victoria picked at her food, moved it around her plate, took tiny bites and chewed slowly, as if eating was a chore she had to endure. "This is lovely, Margaret. So rustic." She smiled. That same polite, empty smile. Rustic. The word stung. What she really meant was poor. Cheap. Not good enough. David did not seem to notice. Or maybe he did and chose to ignore it. He talked about his work, about a new project, about a promotion he was hoping for. Victoria nodded along, but her eyes kept drifting to her phone. After dinner they left quickly. David hugged me at the door. "Thanks, Mama. That was great. I will call you soon." But something had changed. I felt it in that hug. Distance. Pulling away. Like he was already leaving me behind. The calls became less frequent after that. Once a week turned into once every 2 weeks. Then once a month. Our Sunday dinners disappeared. He was always busy. Always had plans with Victoria. Always had somewhere more important to be. 6 months later they got engaged. David called to tell me, "Mama, I asked Victoria to marry me." He said yes. "We are getting married next spring." I should have been happy. I should have screamed with joy. But instead I felt this cold dread spreading through my chest. "That is wonderful, baby. I'm so happy for you." The lies came easily. 'Cause that is what mothers do. We lie to protect our children's happiness, even when we see danger ahead. The wedding was in May. A massive event at some country club I had never heard of. 300 guests. Live orchestra. Flowers flown in from Ecuador. The cake alone cost more than I made in 3 months. I felt out of place from the moment I arrived. My dress was from a department store. $29 on clearance. I had done my own hair. My shoes pinched my feet, but they were the nicest ones I owned. Victoria's family greeted me with cold politeness. Her mother shook my hand limply, as if touching me might contaminate her. Her father nodded and immediately looked away. Her siblings ignored me completely. I was seated at a table in the back. Far from the bride and groom. Far from the family tables. I shared the table with distant cousins and family friends I had never met. People who were just as confused about why they were seated so far away. During the ceremony I cried. But not tears of joy. Tears of loss. Because I was watching my son marry into a world that would never accept me. A world that saw me as an embarrassment. A reminder of poverty that did not fit their polished image. At the reception, David danced with me for one song. Just one. He held me stiffly, formally, like I was an obligation he had to fulfill before he could return to his real life. "Thanks for coming, Mama. Means a lot." His words were kind. But his eyes were distant. Already looking past me to the crowd of important people waiting for his attention. After the wedding, everything changed faster. David and Victoria moved into a house her parents bought for them. A 4-bedroom colonial in the suburbs. Manicured lawn. 2-car garage. Everything I had dreamed of giving my son but never could. I was invited over once. Just once. To see the house. To admire their new life. Victoria gave me a tour. Her voice dripping with false sweetness. This is the living room. We had it professionally decorated. And this is the kitchen. Italian marble countertops. Top-of-the-line appliances. The master bedroom has a walk-in closet bigger than most apartments. That last part felt like a dig. A subtle reminder that my entire apartment could fit in her closet. I brought them a housewarming gift. A set of hand-embroidered dish towels. I had made them myself over several weeks. Each stitch carefully placed. Each pattern chosen with love. Victoria opened the gift in front of me. She held up the towels, examined them briefly, then set them aside. How sweet, Margaret. Very homemade. Thank you. Homemade. Another word that meant cheap. Not good enough. Not up to their standards. The visits stopped after that. When I called, David was always busy. In meetings. On business trips. Out with Victoria's friends. He would promise to call back, but the calls never came. I started showing up unannounced. Desperate to see my son. Desperate for any scrap of his time and attention. But Victoria always had an excuse. He is sleeping. He is working. He has a headache. She would stand in the doorway, blocking my view into the house, making it clear I was not welcome. One Sunday, I drove to their house with a pot of soup. David had mentioned he had a cold. I wanted to take care of him like I used to when he was little. Chicken soup. Homemade bread. A mother's love in a bowl. Victoria answered the door. She did not smile. Margaret, you cannot just show up like this. You need to call first. I just wanted to bring David some soup. He said he was sick. My voice was small. Pleading. I hated how I sounded. He is fine. He does not need soup. She started to close the door. Can I just see him for a minute? Please. I put my foot in the door. A desperate gesture. She sighed. That long-suffering sigh. The kind that makes you feel like you are the biggest inconvenience in the world. Wait here. She shut the door in my face. I stood on the porch holding my pot of soup like a beggar. Neighbors walked by. I saw them look at me. An old woman being turned away from her own son's house. David never came to the door. After 10 minutes I left. I drove home crying so hard I had to pull over twice. I sat in my car in a gas station parking lot and sobbed into my hands. That night David called. Mama, you cannot just show up without calling. Victoria was very upset. You made her uncomfortable. I made her uncomfortable. She is keeping me from you. She is pushing me out of your life. The words exploded out of me. All the hurt I had been swallowing for months. That is not true. You are being dramatic. Victoria has been nothing but kind to you. You just refuse to see it. His voice was cold. Defensive. Kind. David, she treats me like garbage. She looks down on me. She makes me feel worthless. I was begging now. Begging my own son to see what was happening. Maybe you feel that way because you are jealous. Jealous that I have a good life now. That I moved beyond where we came from. His words cut deeper than any knife. How can you say that? I gave everything for you. Everything. My voice broke. No. And I am grateful. But I am an adult now. Have my own family. My own life. You need to respect that. He hung up before I could respond. I sat in my apartment staring at the phone. Jealous. He thought I was jealous. My own son believed I could not be happy for his success. That I was some bitter old woman trying to drag him back down. The months crawled by. I saw David maybe once every 2 months. Always brief visits. Always with Victoria hovering nearby. Always ending with some excuse about why they had to leave. I started having chest pains. Stress, the doctor said. My blood pressure was through the roof. I was not sleeping. Barely eating. I was disappearing into my grief. Mrs. Chin noticed. She would knock on my door with containers of food. Sit with me in silence. She understood. Her own children had moved to California years ago. They called once a month if she was lucky. You must be strong, Margaret. You must survive this. Her words were kind, but they could not fill the hole in my heart. Then came the Friday that changed everything. David called on Thursday. Mama, Victoria and I are having a dinner party tomorrow night. We would like you to come. I was surprised, shocked even. They had not invited me to anything in months. Really? I would love to come. What time? 7 o'clock. And Mama, there is something important we need to discuss. His tone was serious, almost businesslike. What is it? Is everything okay? My heart started racing. We will talk about it tomorrow. Just be there at 7. He hung up before I could ask more questions. I could not sleep that night. I kept wondering what they wanted to discuss. Maybe they were having a baby. Maybe they wanted me to be more involved. Maybe things were finally getting better. I bought a new dress for the dinner. Nothing expensive. I could not afford expensive. But it was new and clean and pressed. I did my hair carefully. Put on lipstick. I wanted to look nice. I wanted them to be proud of me. I arrived at 7 exactly. The house was lit up. I could see shadows moving inside. Hear voices. Music. Victoria opened the door. She was wearing a black cocktail dress. Pearls. Perfect makeup. She looked like she had stepped out of a magazine. Margaret. Right on time. Come in. Her voice was sweet. Too sweet. Like poisoned honey. I walked into the living room. There were people everywhere. At least 15 guests. All dressed in expensive clothes. All holding wine glasses. All strangers to me. David was standing by the fireplace talking to a couple I did not recognize. He saw me and waved. Mama, come meet everyone. He introduced me around. This is my mother, Margaret. Each introduction felt like an afterthought. Box to check. No warmth. No pride. Just obligation. I smiled and shook hands and said hello to people who barely looked at me. People who turned back to their conversations immediately. People who saw me as background noise. Dinner was served in their formal dining room. Long table. Crystal glasses. China plates with gold trim. Everything perfect. Everything expensive. Everything designed to impress. I was seated at the far end of the table. Away from David and Victoria, who sat at the head. Away from the animated conversations about stock portfolios and vacation homes. I picked at my food and tried to be invisible. After dessert, Victoria tapped her wine glass with a fork. The room went quiet. Everyone turned to look at her. Thank you all for coming tonight. David and I wanted to have this dinner for a reason. She paused for dramatic effect. We wanted you all to witness something important. My stomach dropped. Something about her tone. Something about the way she looked at me. I knew this was not good. Margaret, could you please stand up? Victoria's voice was commanding. Not a request. An order. I stood slowly. Every eye in the room turned to me. Felt exposed. Vulnerable. Margaret came here tonight because David and I asked her to. 'Cause there is something she needs to say. Something she needs to admit in front of all of you. Victoria walked toward me. Her heels clicked on the hardwood floor. I do not understand. My voice shook. Oh, I think you do. For the past year, you have been interfering in our marriage. Making Victoria uncomfortable in her own home. Showing up unannounced. Calling constantly. Refusing to respect boundaries. David stood up now. His face was hard. Angry. The room was silent. Everyone watching. Everyone waiting. That is not fair. I was just trying to see you. Just trying to be part of your life. Tears started forming in my eyes. You have been overbearing and intrusive. Victoria has tried to be patient. Has tried to be kind. But you push and push and push. David's voice rose. He sounded like a stranger. I have done nothing wrong. I have only ever loved you. Only ever wanted the best for you. I looked at my son. Tried to find some trace of the boy I raised. Then prove it. Apologize to Victoria. Right now. In front of everyone. Apologize for making her feel unwelcome. For disrespecting our marriage. For being the constant thorn in our side. David crossed his arms. Waiting. This was the plan. This whole dinner. All these people. This was designed to humiliate me, to break me, to force me to bow down and admit I was the problem. Victoria stood beside David, her hand on his arm. Her face was sympathetic, but her eyes were triumphant. She had won. She had turned my son against me. And now she wanted me to publicly surrender. I looked around the room. At all those faces. Some uncomfortable. Some curious. Some clearly enjoying the drama. And something inside me snapped. Not broke. Snapped into place. Like a puzzle piece finally finding where it belongs. For a year I had been broken. Desperate. Pleading for crumbs of affection. But standing there being told to apologize for loving my son, I realized something. I had nothing left to lose. They had already taken everything, so I might as well take something back. My dignity. I straightened my spine, wiped my eyes, and looked directly at Victoria. You want an apology? That is all we are asking. Victoria's voice was sickly sweet. Then you will get one. But first, everyone here needs to know the truth. The whole truth. About you, Victoria. About what you have been hiding. About who you really are. My voice came out steady, strong, louder than I expected. Victoria's smile faltered. Just for a second. David, your mother is clearly upset. Maybe we should do this another time. Well, David said you wanted this in front of everyone. So everyone is going to hear what I have to say. I turned to face the room. Every eye locked on me. What are you talking about? David looked confused now. Uncertain. I'm talking about the fact that your wife has been lying to you. Using you. Stealing from you. All while turning you against the one person who has always loved you. I let the words hang in the air. That is insane. Victoria's voice rose. David, she is making things up because she is bitter. Because she cannot handle that you chose me. Am I making things up? Then explain the investment account. The one where David put all his savings. $130,000. Where is that money, Victoria? I took a step toward her. It is invested. Like I told David. It is growing. We are going to use it to buy a bigger house. Victoria's face was turning red. Really? Because I spoke with someone who looked into those accounts. Want to know what they found? I pulled a folded piece of paper from my purse. I had been carrying it for 3 days. Waiting for the right moment. David was staring at me now. Mama, what are you talking about? I am talking about the fact that all that money is in accounts under Victoria's name only. That if you two divorced tomorrow, you would not see a penny. That the contracts you signed were written to protect her, not you. I handed him the paper. David unfolded it. His hands were shaking. He read silently. His face went pale. Victoria, is this true? Did you put everything in your name? He looked up at his wife. It was for legal protection. My lawyer said it was the smart thing to do. Victoria was defensive now. Nervous. Legal protection from what? From your own husband. I pressed forward. Or maybe legal protection for when you take everything and run. Like you planned all along. You are crazy. You are a bitter old woman who cannot let go. Victoria's mask was cracking. Am I? Then explain these. I pulled out more papers. Printouts I had paid a private investigator $200 to get. Every penny I had left in savings. What are those? David took them from my hand. Bank statements from Victoria's family. Showing they are bankrupt. That her father lost everything 3 years ago. That the house they live in is mortgaged to the hilt. That they have debts to 4 different banks totaling over $600,000. I watched David's face as he read. The room had gone completely silent. This was better than any reality show. Real drama unfolding in real time. And here is the best part. Guess where some of your money went, David? To pay off those debts. Your wife has been taking your savings and using them to keep her family afloat. To maintain the illusion that they are rich. That she comes from money. Lies. Every single bit of it. I turned to Victoria. Her face was white now. Pure rage and fear mixed together. You had no right to investigate my family. You violated my privacy. Victoria's voice shook. You violated my son. You manipulated him. You pushed me out of his life systematically. I pulled out one more paper. Text messages between Victoria and her mother. Messages I paid extra to get. Messages that showed everything. What are those? David was standing now, moving toward me. These are conversations between your wife and her mother. From before you even got married. Want to hear some? I unfolded the paper. Let me read this one. He is perfect. Young, good salary, not too close to his family. Easy to control. That could be about anyone. Victoria tried to grab the paper. I stepped back. How about this one? The mother is a problem, but I can work around that. Once we are married, I will start pushing her out. Make him choose between us. He will choose me. They always do. I read clearly, loudly, making sure everyone heard. David snatched the papers from my hand. He read them himself, one after another, his face changing with each line. From disbelief to understanding to pure betrayal. You wrote these. You planned this. His voice was barely a whisper. Victoria opened her mouth, closed it. No words came. David kept reading. Here is another good one. His money is ours now. My father's lawyers made sure of that. The contracts are ironclad. If we divorce, I keep everything. Stop it. Stop reading those. Victoria was crying now. Real tears. Not the fake ones she used to manipulate. These were tears of panic. And one more. My favorite. The old lady showed up again. I told her he was busy. She actually believed me. It is almost too easy. Soon she will give up completely. Then David will be completely mine. I looked at my son. Do you understand now? David was staring at Victoria like he had never seen her before. You did this. You planned all of this from the beginning. I was just a mark. Just a paycheck. Oh, baby, no. Love you. I really love you. Victoria reached for him. He pulled away. Love. You do not even know what that word means. His voice broke. One of the guests, a woman in a red dress, stood up. Think we should go. This is clearly a family matter. Oh. You all need to hear this too. Because Victoria invited you here to humiliate my mother. To make her apologize. Well, now you know who should really be apologizing. David turned to the room. People shifted uncomfortably. Some looked at Victoria with disgust. Others with pity. No one looked at her with respect anymore. David, I can explain everything. If you just listen. Victoria was desperate now. Explain what? How you married me for money. How you stole from me. How you deliberately destroyed my relationship with my mother. He was shouting now. All the anger finally directed at the right person. I never stole from you. That money was for us. For our future. Victoria tried to touch his arm. Our future. You mean your future? Your family's future. I was just the wallet. He shook her off. Victoria looked around the room. At all the guests watching her public destruction. At her perfect life crumbling in real time. And then she did what cornered animals do. She attacked. You want to know the truth? Fine. Yes, I married you for money. Yes, my family needed financial help. But you know what? You needed me too. You needed someone to make you respectable. To give you access to a better life. Without me, you would still be just some middle-class engineer with no connections. No future. I gave you everything. Her voice was vicious now. You gave me nothing but lies. David's voice was cold. I gave you a life your mother never could. I took you out of that world. Away from her. You should be thanking me. Victoria gestured at me with contempt. That world you talk about. That world where my mother worked herself to the bone so I could go to college. That world where love actually meant something. Where people did not measure worth in dollars. I would trade everything to go back to that world. David walked toward me. He stood in front of me. His eyes were red. Mama, I am so sorry. I am so incredibly sorry. I reached up and touched his face. The same face I had kissed every night when he was little. It is okay, baby. It is okay now. It is not okay. I let her turn me into someone I am not. I treated you like you were nothing. Like you were an embarrassment. I chose money and status over you. Over love. Over everything you taught me. He was crying now. My strong son was crying. You were fooled. We all were. But now you know the truth. Now you can make better choices. I hugged him. Held him like I used to when he was scared or hurt. The guests were leaving now. Quickly. Quietly. Nobody wanted to be part of this anymore. The entertainment value had worn off. Now it was just sad and messy. Victoria stood alone in her perfect living room in her perfect dress with her perfect life shattered around her feet. I am not giving you a divorce. If you leave me, I will take everything. I will ruin you. Her voice was pure venom now. David pulled away from me. He looked at his wife. You already took everything that mattered. The money. Keep it. The house. Keep it. I do not care anymore. He walked to the door. Mama, let me drive you home. Wait. David, wait. We can work this out. We can go to counseling. I will change. Victoria followed us. The only thing I want from you is divorce papers. Have your lawyer send them to my office. David opened the door for me. We drove in silence to my apartment. When we pulled up outside my building, David turned off the car and just sat there. I let her take you away from me. My own mother. The person who sacrificed everything. I let a stranger turn me against you. His voice was hollow. She was very convincing. And I was very blind. I wanted to believe in the fairy tale. The beautiful wife. The big house. The successful life. I forgot what really matters. He looked at the building. My tiny apartment. This is where real love lives. Right here. Not in that mansion. Not with those people. You are welcome to come back anytime. I will always have a place for you. My voice was soft. Can I stay tonight? I do not want to go back there. I do not want to see her. David looked at me with those same eyes from childhood. The eyes that asked for comfort and safety. Course, baby. Course you can stay. Smiled. We went upstairs. My apartment had never looked smaller. 1 bedroom. Tiny kitchen. Bathroom with cracked tiles. But it was home. It was where love lived. Matey. We sat on my old couch. The same couch David used to jump on as a kid. The same couch where we watched cartoons every Saturday morning. Tell me everything. Tell me how it happened. How I became so blind. David wrapped his hands around the warm mug. So I told him. About every visit where Victoria made me feel small. Every conversation where she poisoned him against me. Every moment I was excluded or dismissed or treated like garbage. And he listened. Really listened. For the first time in a year. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said something that broke my heart. I heard her say those things. I heard her call you intrusive and overbearing. I heard her tell her friends you were a problem. And I believed her. I chose to believe her over my own memories. Over everything I knew about you. What kind of son does that? Human one. Flawed one. One who made mistakes but can still fix them. I took his hand. We sat there until dawn. Talking. Crying. Healing. Slowly. Carefully. Like stitching together a wound that had been left open too long. The divorce took 6 months. It was ugly. Victoria fought for everything. But David had those text messages. Had the proof of fraud. Had evidence that she had manipulated him from the start. Her lawyers tried to spin it. Tried to make him look like a vindictive ex-husband. But the truth was too clear. Too documented. In the end, David got back most of his money. Not all. Legal fees ate up a chunk. But enough. Enough to start over. He moved into a small apartment. 2 bedrooms. Nothing fancy. Nothing to impress anyone. Just a place to live and rebuild. And every Sunday, he came to my apartment for dinner. Like we used to. Like we should have never stopped. He would bring groceries. We would cook together. Make too much food. Laugh about stupid things. Talk about real things. Politics. Life. Not money. Not status. Not appearances. One Sunday, about a year after that terrible dinner party, David brought someone with him. Woman. Her name was Rachel. She was a teacher. She wore jeans and sneakers. She had laugh lines around her eyes. "Mama, I want you to meet someone." David looked nervous, hopeful. "Hello, Mrs. Stone. I've heard so much about you." Rachel shook my hand warmly. Her smile reached her eyes. We had dinner. Rachel helped me cook. She asked about my life, about my work, about my childhood. She asked real questions and listened to real answers. She treated me like a person, like someone worth knowing. After she left, David stayed behind. "What do you think?" He was anxious for my opinion. "Think she is lovely. I think she sees you for who you really are, not what you can buy her." I hugged him. "She knows where I come from. I told her everything. About you. About how you raised me. About Victoria. About all of it. And she did not run. She said it made her respect me more. That anyone who could survive that and still be kind was worth knowing." David smiled. Really smiled. The smile I had not seen in years. "Then she is a keeper." I was genuinely happy. 6 months later, David proposed to Rachel. Small proposal. Just the two of them at a park. No elaborate plan. No expensive ring. Just love. They got married at City Hall. Just 10 people. Rachel's parents. Her sister. Few close friends. Mrs. Chin. Me. Rachel wore a simple white dress she bought off the rack. David wore his best suit. Nothing fancy. Nothing designed to impress. Just two people promising to love each other. At the small reception at a local restaurant, Rachel gave a speech. She thanked everyone for coming. Then she turned to me. "And I want to especially thank Margaret. Because she raised the man I love. She taught him kindness and strength and resilience. She showed him what real love looks like. And I promised to honor that. To never make him choose between his past and his future. Because that past made him who he is. And I love who he is." I cried through the whole speech. Happy tears. Real tears. The kind that heal instead of hurt. David and Rachel bought a house eventually. 3 bedrooms. Modest neighborhood. And the first thing Rachel did was hang pictures. Pictures of David as a baby. David at his high school graduation. David and me at his college graduation. Our history. Front and center. Never hidden. Never erased. And every Sunday we have dinner. Sometimes at my place. Sometimes at theirs. Sometimes we go out to a diner and split a pie. Does not matter where. What matters is we are together. I am 66 now. My hair is completely gray. My hands shake sometimes from arthritis. My back hurts more days than not. But I am happy. Truly happy. I see my son every week. I have a daughter-in-law who treats me with respect and love. And I have my dignity back. That invisible thing that was stripped away piece by piece until I thought it was gone forever. But it was not gone. It was just buried. Waiting to be reclaimed. People ask me sometimes if I regret what I did that night. If I regret causing such a scene. Destroying David's marriage. Making everything public. Tell them no. Not for a second. Because that night I saved my son. I saved him from a woman who was using him. From a life built on lies. From slowly losing himself trying to be someone he was not. And I saved myself too. I stopped being the desperate mother begging for attention. I became the strong woman who fought back. Who demanded respect. Who refused to be erased. Victoria remarried eventually. Some businessman from another city. I heard they moved to Florida. I hope she learned something. I hope she became a better person. But honestly, I do not think about her much anymore. She is just a bad chapter in a long book. David talks about her sometimes. About what he learned. About the red flags he missed. About how he let his desire for a certain kind of life blind him to reality. And I listen. I do not say I told you so. I do not rub it in. Just listen. 'Cause that is what mothers do. We help our children learn from their mistakes without making them feel worse than they already do. Mrs. Chen passed away 2 years ago. Peacefully in her sleep. David helped me arrange her funeral. He paid for everything. Not because he was trying to buy forgiveness. But because he genuinely wanted to honor the woman who helped raise him when I was working nights. At her funeral, David gave a speech. He talked about how Mrs. Chen was his second mother, how she taught him patience and kindness, how she made him feel loved even when I could not be there. He cried openly. My strong son cried in front of everyone. And I was proud. Proud that he could show emotion. Proud that he remembered where he came from. Rachel got pregnant last year. They told me together. Came to my apartment with a gift-wrapped box. Inside was a onesie that said "Best Grandma Ever." I'm going to be a grandmother. I held that tiny piece of clothing and felt a joy I had not felt in years. A new beginning. Fresh start. A chance to love another generation. Rachel asked me to be in the delivery room. Not just David. Both of us. She wanted me there when my grandchild came into the world. I cannot describe what that meant to me. To be included. To be wanted. To be seen as important. The baby came in April. A girl. They named her Margaret Rose. After me. After Rachel's grandmother. A name that connected past and future. Heritage and hope. I held my granddaughter for the first time in that hospital room. She was so small. So perfect. She had David's nose. Rachel's eyes. And when she wrapped her tiny fingers around mine, I felt everything come full circle. This is what it was all for. All the sacrifice. All the pain. All the years of working myself to exhaustion. It was for this moment. For this family. For this love. David watched me hold his daughter. Mama, I want her to know you. Really know you. I want her to hear stories about how you raised me. About how strong you are. About what real love looks like. I want her to grow up understanding that family is not about money or houses or impressing people. It is about showing up. About sacrifice. About choosing love over and over again even when it is hard. I looked at my son. At this man who had lost his way but found it again. You will be an amazing father. Because you learn from your mistakes. Because you know what matters now. Rachel smiled at us from her hospital bed. Margaret, I hope you know you will be very involved in this baby's life. I hope you are ready for lots of sleepovers and babysitting and spoiling her rotten. I am more than ready. I've been waiting for this. I kissed my granddaughter's forehead. He smelled like hope. Like new beginnings. Like everything good in the world. That was 6 months ago. Now Margaret Rose is starting to smile. Starting to recognize faces. And when I walk into a room, her whole face lights up. She knows me. Her grandmother. And that connection is the most precious thing I have ever experienced besides raising David. I babysit twice a week. David and Rachel bring her over. They trust me completely. They ask my advice about feeding schedules and sleep training and first foods. They value my experience. They see me as wise, not obsolete. Important, not in the way. Sometimes when I am holding Margaret Rose, giving her a bottle or singing her old lullabies, I think about that terrible night. That dinner party where I was supposed to apologize. Where I was supposed to bow my head and accept blame for loving my son. And I think about how close I came to doing it. How close I came to just apologizing. To keeping the peace. To swallowing my dignity one more time just to stay in David's life in whatever small way he would allow. But something in me refused. Something said no. Not this time. Not anymore. You will not erase me. You will not make me invisible. You will not rewrite history and pretend I am the villain. That refusal saved everything. It saved my relationship with my son. It saved him from a woman who was using him. It saved our family. And now it has given me a granddaughter who will grow up knowing her grandmother. Really knowing her. Not as some distant figure seen once a year. But as a constant presence. A source of love and wisdom and strength. I teach Margaret Rose the same songs I sang to David. I tell her stories about her father as a little boy. About how he used to collect rocks from the playground and line them up by size. About how he refused to eat vegetables unless they were hidden in soup. About how he had nightmares and would climb into my bed and I would hold him until he felt safe again. Rachel records some of these stories on her phone. She wants Margaret Rose to have them when she is older. She wants her daughter to know her family history. The real history. Not some sanitized version, but the truth, the struggles, poverty, the single mother working 3 jobs, the love that survived everything. This is what Victoria wanted to erase. This history, this truth. She wanted David to forget where he came from, to be ashamed of it, to see it as something to overcome and leave behind rather than something to honor and build upon. But you cannot build a real life on lies. You cannot build lasting happiness on shame. David learned that the hard way. And now he is teaching his daughter different lessons. Better lessons. Lessons about authenticity and gratitude and the difference between what glitters and what truly shines. I still live in the same apartment. David offered many times to help me move somewhere nicer, somewhere newer. But I always refuse. This is my home. These walls have seen my whole life. My struggles, my victories, my tears, my joy. I am not ashamed of it. I will not pretend I need something fancier to be worthy. And honestly, there is something powerful about staying. About not running from your past. About saying this is who I am. This is where I come from. Take it or leave it. David brings Margaret Rose here every week. She will grow up playing on the same worn carpet her father played on. Eating at the same small table. Learning that love does not require luxury. That the best things in life cannot be bought. Sometimes I see my reflection in the bathroom mirror. I look old now. Really old. My face is mapped with wrinkles. My body is tired. I move slower. Forget things sometimes. I am not the young woman who held David for the first time. I am not even the middle-aged woman who worked herself to exhaustion. I am an old woman now. And I am okay with that. Because I earned every wrinkle, every gray hair, every ache in my bones. I earned them through living, through loving, through fighting when I had to fight, through forgiving when it was time to forgive. There is dignity in aging when you age with purpose. When you can look back and say I did my best. I made mistakes but I learned from them. I hurt people but I made it right. I fell down but I got back up. I see other women my age sometimes. The grocery store. At the doctor's office. Church. Some of them look defeated. Worn down by life. Invisible in their own families. Tolerated but not celebrated. Seen as burdens rather than blessings. I want to tell them it does not have to be that way. That they have power. That they can demand respect. That loving your children does not mean accepting mistreatment. That there is a difference between sacrifice and erasure. But most of them would not listen. 'Cause it is scary to stand up. It is scary to risk losing what little you have. It is easier to shrink. To accept crumbs. To be grateful for whatever attention you receive even if it comes with contempt. Understand. I was there. For a year I was there. Accepting less and less. Grateful for moments that should have been my right, not my privilege. Apologizing for existing. For wanting to be part of my son's life. But that night changed me. Standing in that room full of strangers. Being told to apologize for loving my child. Something crystallized. Something clicked into place. A voice inside me said enough. This ends now. Tonight. Either you fight or you disappear forever. Choose. And I chose to fight. Not with fists or screams. But with truth. With evidence. With calm, clear facts that could not be denied or twisted or explained away. That is the key. When you finally stand up for yourself, you cannot do it emotionally. You cannot just scream about how you feel. 'Cause then you look crazy. Then you look like the problem. Then everyone dismisses you as the bitter old woman who cannot let go. Well, you have to be smart. You have to have proof. You have to present facts so clear that everyone in that room sees the truth. Not your version. Not her version. The actual truth. That is what I did. And that is what worked. Because Victoria could cry. She could accuse me of lying. She could play the victim. But she could not argue with her own words. Her own text messages. Her own plans laid out in black and white. David sees those messages sometimes. I know he does. He told me once that he saved them. Not to punish himself. But to remember. To never forget how easily he was manipulated. How close he came to losing everything that mattered. And he shares them with Rachel. Not in a weird way, but in an honest way. This is who I almost became. This is the life I almost chose. This is how far I strayed from what you taught me, Mama. I never want to go back there. Rachel understands. She came from a good family. 2 parents who loved each other. Modest means but rich in affection. She knows what healthy looks like. And she helps David stay grounded. Helps him remember what matters. They are talking about having another baby. Maybe a boy this time. Maybe another girl. Does not matter to me. I will love whoever comes. I will be there. I will be the grandmother who shows up. Who helps. Who loves without conditions or strings. That is my legacy now. Not money. Have none of that. Not property. Rent. Not achievements or awards or recognition. Just love. Consistent, steady, unconditional love. And honestly, that is enough. More than enough. Because in the end, when we are all gone, what remains? Not the houses. Not the bank accounts. Not the impressive titles or social connections. What remains is how we made people feel. How we loved. Who we helped. What we gave. Gave David life. I gave him values. I gave him the foundation to build a good life even though he forgot it for a while. And now he is giving that to Margaret Rose. And she will give it to her children someday. Love multiplying across generations. That is immortality. That is what lasts. Victoria has no children as far as I know. She remarried, but I heard it is not going well. I heard her second husband is just as controlling as she was. That they fight constantly. That she is miserable. Part of me feels sorry for her. Small part. Because she could have had something real with David. If she had just been honest. If she had just loved him for who he was instead of what he could provide. If she had accepted me instead of seeing me as an obstacle. But she chose differently. She chose lies and manipulation and greed. And now she lives with those choices. That is not my problem anymore. That is not my burden to carry. I sleep well at night now. For years I did not. I would lie awake wondering what I did wrong. Replaying conversations. Analyzing every interaction. Trying to figure out how to fix things. How to make Victoria like me. How to make David see me again. But now I sleep peacefully. 'Cause I know I did the right thing. I know I fought when I needed to fight. I know I told the truth even though it was hard. Even though it could have backfired. Even though I risked losing David forever. That risk was worth it. Because the alternative was losing him slowly. Watching him drift further and further away. Becoming a stranger who called once a year on my birthday. Who sent impersonal gifts. Who had a mother in name only. Now I have my son back. Really back. Not the broken version Victoria created. Not the man who was ashamed of his past. But the real David. The one I raised. The one who knows where he came from and is proud of it. He talks about me differently now. I hear him sometimes when I am at their house. He tells friends about how I worked 3 jobs. How I sacrificed everything. How I taught him what strength really means. His voice is full of pride. No embarrassment. No apology. Just genuine pride in his mother. That is all I ever wanted. Not money. Not a big house. Not to be shown off or paraded around. Just to be seen. To be valued. To be loved without shame. And now I have that. At 66 years old I finally have that. Some people never get it. They spend their whole lives chasing approval that never comes. Working for love that is always conditional. Accepting mistreatment because they believe it is all they deserve. But we deserve more. We all deserve more. We deserve respect. We deserve to be included. We deserve relationships that nourish us instead of drain us. And if we are not getting that, we have a choice. We can keep accepting it. Keep shrinking. Keep disappearing. Or we can stand up. We can fight back. We can demand better. It is terrifying. I will not lie. Standing up to your own child is one of the hardest things anyone can do. Because we are wired to protect them. To make them happy. To smooth their path. Not to challenge them. Not to make things difficult. But sometimes making things difficult is the most loving thing we can do. Sometimes our children need to be challenged. need to see truth even when it hurts, need to face consequences for their choices. David needed that. He needed to see what Victoria really was. He needed to understand that he was being used. He needed to face the fact that he had betrayed his mother for a woman who never loved him. Was it painful for him? Absolutely. Did it hurt? More than I can describe. But it also freed him. It released him from a prison he did not even know he was in. And now he lives authentically, honestly, without pretense. That is the gift truth gives us. Even when it destroys. Even when it tears apart what we thought we wanted. Truth clears the ground so something real can grow. Margaret Rose is starting to crawl now. She pulls herself across the floor, determined to reach whatever catches her attention. Remote control. My feet when I am sitting on the couch. I watch her and I see David. That same determination. That same refusal to give up. That same spark of independence. And I wonder what kind of woman she will become. What challenges she will face. What choices she will make. But I am not worried. 'Cause she has good parents. Parents who learned hard lessons. Parents who understand what matters. Parents who will teach her to value authenticity over appearance. Character over wealth. Love over status. And she has me. For however many years I have left, I will be here. Telling her stories. Showing her pictures. Teaching her that our family comes from humble beginnings and that is nothing to be ashamed of. That is everything to be proud of. 'Cause we survived. We overcame. We loved through poverty and hardship and betrayal. We kept going when it would have been easier to quit. And that is real strength. That is real power. Not the kind you buy. The kind you build through living. Through enduring. Through refusing to be broken. This is what I will teach Margaret Rose. This is my final gift to her. Not money in a college fund. Not property to inherit. But wisdom. The hard-earned kind. The kind that comes from living through fire and coming out stronger. David tells me I should write all this down. All the stories. All the lessons. He wants Margaret Rose to have them when she is older. When I am gone. So she can know who her grandmother really was. Maybe I will. Maybe I will fill a notebook with memories. With truths. With advice for navigating a world that often values the wrong things. That rewards appearance over substance. That celebrates wealth over character. Or maybe this is enough. Maybe the best way to teach is not through writing but through living. Through being present. Through showing up consistently. Through demonstrating every day what love actually looks like. Not grand gestures. Not expensive gifts. Not impressive displays. But simple presence. Making time. Offering help. Giving attention. Listening more than talking. Seeing people for who they are rather than who we want them to be. That is what I am doing now. Every Sunday dinner. Every babysitting session. Every phone call and visit an ordinary moment. I am teaching by example. Showing what it means to love without keeping score. To forgive without holding grudges. To fight when necessary but to rebuild when possible. And David is learning. I see it in how he treats Rachel. With respect. With partnership. With genuine appreciation. He asks her opinion. He values her thoughts. He does not dictate or control or manipulate. He collaborates. That is what a healthy relationship looks like. And it is nothing like what he had with Victoria. Nothing like that performance of perfection. That exhausting dance of pretending and impressing and maintaining appearances. With Rachel he can be real. He can be tired. He can be uncertain. He can fail and not be abandoned. He can ask for help and not be seen as weak. He can be fully human. And Rachel can be real too. She does not have to be perfect. Does not have to pretend. Does not have to perform. They are just two people building a life together. Honestly. Imperfectly. Authentically. That is what love should be. Not a transaction. Not a performance. Not a competition. Just two people choosing each other every day. Seeing each other fully. Accepting the messy, complicated reality of who they are. I wish I had had that. Partner who stayed. Who chose us. Who worked through hard times instead of running. But life does not always give us what we wish for. Sometimes it gives us what we need to become who we are meant to be. And I needed to be alone. I needed to raise David by myself. Because that experience made me strong, taught me resilience, showed me I could survive anything, that I did not need anyone to save me, that I could save myself. That knowledge carried me through the Victoria years. Because I knew I had survived worse. I had survived abandonment and poverty and working myself to exhaustion. I had survived raising a child alone with no help and no safety net. I had survived all of that, so I could survive a manipulative daughter-in-law. I could survive my son's betrayal. I could survive public humiliation. Because I was stronger than all of it, tougher than all of it, more determined than all of it. And in the end I won. Not through being cruel, not through revenge, but through truth, through standing firm, through refusing to accept a narrative that made me the villain in my own story. That is power, real power. The kind that cannot be bought or inherited or married into. The kind you earn through living, through fighting, through refusing to give up even when giving up would be so much easier. I look at my hands sometimes. Old hands now. Wrinkled, spotted, veins visible under thin skin. Hands that have worked so hard for so long. Hands that have held my son. That have cleaned toilets and washed dishes and scrubbed floors. That have cooked thousands of meals and changed thousands of diapers and wiped away countless tears. These hands have built a life. Not a fancy life. Not an impressive life. But a real life. A life full of love and struggle and triumph. A life that matters. That made a difference. That created something lasting. And now these same hands hold my granddaughter. Pass on that same love to a new generation. The cycle continues. Love multiplying. Growing. Spreading. This is enough. This is more than enough. This is everything. My name is Margaret Stone. I am 66 years old. I live in a one-bedroom apartment. I worked as a janitor for 40 years. I raised my son alone. I lost him for a while. And I fought to get him back. This is my story. Not a fairy tale. Not a perfect story. But a real one. True one. And in the end, that is all that matters. Not how much money you have. Not how big your house is. Not how many people know your name. What matters is how you loved. Who you fought for. What you stood up for. What you left behind. I loved with everything I had. I fought when I needed to fight. I stood up for truth even when it was terrifying. And I am leaving behind a son who knows what real love looks like. A granddaughter who will grow up understanding that strength comes from character, not possessions. A family that values authenticity over appearances. That is my legacy. And I am proud of it. Prouder than I could ever be of money or status or anything else this world celebrates. Because in the end, love is all we have. Love is all that lasts. Love is all that matters. And I have loved well. That is enough. That is everything.